Let's cross live now to Abuja, where Governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodinma, is delivering his address at the ongoing Nigerian Guild of Editors Conference. This year's conference brings together top media executives, policymakers and stakeholders to discuss the role of the press, national development and, of course, good governance.
What you do between now and then will determine not only what Nigerians know about 2027, but how they will experience it. You will have to choose whether to frame candidates as threats or alternatives. You will choose whether to emphasize differences that divide or principles that unite. You will choose whether editorial silence on certain stories suggests they don't matter, or whether relentless focus on some issues could pose existential threats in the country. These days, a leadership tussle within a political party gets reported as a sign that our democracy is failing. Why does this happen? Because when your coverage consistently treats political disagreement as an existential threat or conflict, when every policy debate becomes a battle, every electoral or party contest a crisis, every compromise a betrayal, you train citizens to see democracy as perpetually contested rather than a shared process of decision-making. Check out some of these prototype headlines. Crisis rocks Party A. Party B is dead. Poverty index. Nigeria is the worst country in the world, and etc., and etc. This type of sensational headlines, which are commonplace in our media space, fast-track the downfall of a country. We should protect our country. We should understand nationalism. We should be able to be patriotic. But I know the commercial trap. Sensationalism drives engagement. Candidate A, accused of fraud. It gets more attention than candidate X releases policy blueprint. Division sells, yes. Outrage travels faster than nuance. But editors are not mere traffickers in outrage. You have codes of practice. You have standards. The question is whether those standards are being applied to electoral coverage with the rigor you apply elsewhere. National interest must be your editorial North Star. And the national interest in an election year means coverage that informs without inflaming, that holds power accountable without treating every contest as a catastrophe, that allows citizens to make choices without making them believe that the process is irredeemably broken. The electoral integrity begins with editorial integrity. So there is a need to understand what electoral integrity means in every sense. It cannot be only about ballots. It cannot be about security alone and logistics. It must include the integrity of the information Nigerians consume about those processes. If your newsroom allows misinformation, rumor, and tribalism to masquerade as journalism, electoral integrity is already compromised, even before a single vote is cast. If unverified claims about rigging circulate unchecked on your pages or platforms, you have undermined the process, regardless of Anec competence. This is where I challenge what I see as an abdication. Editors often treat electoral integrity as someone else's responsibility. Anec, executive, security agencies, and civil society. But it is yours too. That is why I am happy with the lecture topic you gave to me. Arguably, you have more powers to shape it than most other actors because you shape the information environment in which citizens form opinions and reach judgments? Answer these questions in your heart, and you will get closer to the truth. Do you know as a professional? Do you know as a professional? Do your honest best to protect electoral integrity through the discharge of your duties based on national interest. Have commercial, political, or proprietary considerations sometimes informed your editorial choices? In 2027, will your editorial practice contribute to a credible election, or will it contribute to the perception of a flawed one? National cohesion can be facilitated if we can look at the editor's unfinished businesses. In all fairness, Nigerian editors have accomplished much that deserves recognition. Your newsrooms have produced investigative journalists who exposed corruption. You have published reports that held power accountable. Through your coverage, you have amplified marginalized voices. These contributions matter and are essential to democracy. But what is often missing is journalism that actively builds cohesion, not just reports on its absence. There is a difference between neutrality or neutrally documenting division and actively choosing narratives that remind Nigerians of shared values, shared stakes, and a shared future. You report on ethnic tension, regional disparities, and religious conflicts, as you should. But how often do your editorial choices highlight what binds us together rather than what divides us? When you choose to run northern leaders, reject southern candidates as your banner, instead of consensus forms around the economic agenda, for instance, you have made a choice about what matters. That choice shapes whether readers and listeners see politics as a tribal contest or a democratic process. So the reality heading into 2027 is that elections are won and lost, not only on policies or candidates, but on whether voters believe that the outcome will be legitimate. That belief is shaped by whether they have been hearing fragmented, tribal narratives or cohesive nation-building ones. And that is an editorial choice you make every day. Let me give you a concrete example of what editorial integrity in the service of national cohesion looks like. Most recent reports indicate that Nigeria's $2.35 billion Eurobond was oversubscribed by $10.65 billion. That is 453% oversubscription. The Nigerian Stock Exchange recorded 2.7 trillion naira in transactions in the first 4 months of 2025, which is a 43% increase year on year. Foreign portfolio investment surged to 162%. Sovereign Investment Authority now holds an asset worth of 4.42 trillion naira. Our GDP grew by 4.23%, the highest in a decade. These are real market outcomes. Investors do not oversubscribe bonds out of sentiments. They do so because they expect returns. And returns require stability and policy coherence. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's economic reforms are clearly generating the confidence that is producing these investment fostering results. So when you amplify the reality and the facts that President Tinubu's reform policies are yielding fruits and that a robust economic future is manifesting, you are using facts for nation building and inspiring narratives ahead of 2027 election. You are building confidence in the future. You are making Nigerians look towards 2027 with optimism and patriotism. But when you begin to follow the negative utterances of those who don't like our country, you are misinforming Nigerians. None of this requires abandoning your watchdog function. You can hold the government accountable and avoid framing every accountability story as an evidence of irredeemable dysfunction. You can report electoral irregularities and avoid suggesting that the entire system is corrupt. You can cover political competition and remind citizens that competitors will govern the same country afterwards. The question is, ahead of 2027, will you be passive chroniclers of division or active catalysts of the cohesion that democracy requires to function? In closing, Your Excellencies, distinguished editors, ladies and gentlemen, let me say this as part of my closing remarks. The administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu understands what is at stake. His presence at this conference is a huge statement of priority. When a sitting president dedicates time to a gathering of editors and communication professionals, it signals that the battle against disinformation and the project of national cohesion are treated as a matter of national importance. Besides, the president has backed the commitment with structure. The support and the establishment of multiple strategic communication channels, from not only the National Orientation Agency to the weekly ministerial briefings series, reflect a systematic effort to ensure that the government does not cede the information space to speculation and rumor. There are transparency mechanisms designed to ensure that policy decisions are explained, defended, and open to scrutiny. You are not spectators in 2027. You are active participants. You are catalysts and facilitators. Whether you acknowledge it or not, the narratives you shape between now and the election will determine whether Nigerians approach 2027 with hope or cynicism, with trust or suspicion, with a sense of shared stake or through a tribal lens. I am not asking you to become a propagandist for the state. I'm rather asking you to become custodians of information integrity, which sits well with electoral integrity. Let 2027 be the election year where the Nigerian media became architects of a shared democratic future, where you demonstrated that journalism can be rigorous, can be engaging, can be commercially viable, and work in the service of national cohesion, where you accept that you are not only accountable for democratic governance and national cohesion, but also for electoral integrity and trust deficit. What you choose to do or not to do has enormous consequences for our dear country. And always remember this, even in the medieval age, when the clergy was the first estate, the nobility the second, and the commoners the third, the press was the fourth estate. In modern age, the legislature is the first estate, the executive is the second, and the judiciary is the third. The media is still the fourth estate. Now you can see, whether ancient or modern, you are the last man standing. Therefore, as the saying goes, the goldfish has no hiding place. So just know that history is waiting to critique the role, not just of the first, nor the second and third estates, but the fourth estate as well, on how they did or failed to do in 2027 and the run-up thereto. It will help to make or mar Nigeria. The choice is ours in this room. I want to thank you for the privilege of listening to me. May God Almighty bless all of us. I wish you a successful convention. Thank you.